My daughter-in-law banished me to the servants' table that night, as though I were some embarrassing relative who had simply shown up uninvited. All because I was late to her extravagant birthday gala, late because I had stopped to help a stranded woman on the side of the road with a flat tire. She humiliated me, seated me near the kitchen doors, far from my grandchildren, her crystal glasses, and her elite circle of friends, sparkling at the head table while I sat on a wobbly chair by the clinking of dishware. Then, as fate would have it, the very same woman from the highway walked in, dressed in a tailored ivory suit that turned every head in the room. Conversations froze. She was introduced not as some stranger, but as a billionaire philanthropist, and what she said next would turn the night, and my place in this family, upside down. The memory burned in my mind as I sat in my lonely living room. The photo in my hands trembled slightly. My hands always seem to shake these days. Leo and Clara, my two little lights, were frozen forever in that snapshot from last summer, their gap-toothed smiles bright against the faded edges of the picture. 10 and 8 now. When had I last held them close? My thumb traced the curl of Clara's pigtails, remembering the last time I kissed her forehead. 3 months. 3 months since Christmas morning, 3 months since my daughter-in-law Mabel's cheerful voice had crackled through the phone line saying, "Sorry, Elias, the kids have caught that nasty stomach bug that's going around." I believed her. Until Seth's Instagram showed them laughing in Aspen, rolling snowballs in matching designer jackets. The betrayal still stung. The leather armchair groaned beneath me as I shifted forward, reaching for the cordless phone resting on the side table. My coffee had gone cold hours ago, leaving a faint ring inside the mug. I hadn't washed it, Martha's favorite mug, with the little faded violets on the side. I kept using it, like a ritual, pretending she might come sweeping through the door any moment, asking why I hadn't called the kids yet. The clock read 7:30 on a Monday evening. Seth would be home from his IT job by now, probably helping with homework, maybe sitting with the kids watching cartoons. I tried to imagine Clara's bubbling laugh, Leo's furrowed brow when he concentrated on his math problems. My heart ached. My finger hovered over the speed dial. Number 2. Right after the house phone. Number 1 still belonged to Martha, her number still there like a shrine I couldn't bring myself to erase. The phone rang twice before Seth's voice answered, carrying the distant chaos of family life. Television noise, the kids' voices arguing over something trivial. "Seth, hi son," I said, clearing my throat, sitting straighter in the chair as though he could see me. "Listen, I was just wondering, what could I get Mabel for her birthday?" There was a pause, a strange pause, long enough for me to catch Clara shouting something in the background. Then Seth's voice returned, distracted, tired. "Dad, we're not planning anything big. Just a small dinner with a few close people." Small dinner, few close people. The words landed heavy, like stones in my chest. "Right," I said softly. "Of course, but maybe I could still get her something nice. Flowers, perhaps. I could stop by that little boutique on Clark Street." Seth hesitated, his voice half lost in the background clatter of his home. "I'll talk to Mabel about it. Maybe we'll invite you too." Maybe, the word lingered like a ghost, colder than the night air outside my window. Casual, almost as if discussing the weather, I tried to keep my voice steady. "Maybe. Your family will be there too. Could I see the grandchildren?" The words slipped out before I could stop them. It had been far too long since I had seen them. "Clara, stop bothering your brother." Seth's voice cracked slightly as he moved away from the phone, then returned. "Sorry, Dad," he said. "Dinner's getting cold. Mabel's calling everyone to the table." "Of course," I murmured, swallowing hard. "I just thought, I really need to go. Thanks for calling about the gift idea." The line went dead. I held the phone against my ear a moment longer, listening to the dial tone, before placing it gently on the side table. Through the thin walls, Mrs. Hargrave's television blared a game show, winners cheering, confetti falling in that canned celebratory way that made my solitude feel heavier. I pulled out my small battered notebook, the one I had used for work orders back when my hands fixed engines, instead of trembling over family photos. I drew a careful line under yesterday's date, and wrote in neat black letters, "Mabel birthday Thursday." Beneath that I scribbled, "Small dinner, closest people." The calendar on the coffee table showed April 21st circled in red ink. Thursday, the 24th, remained blank. Waiting. 3 days to figure out how to be deemed worthy of inclusion. The mantelpiece held more fragments of memory. Clara losing her first tooth, Leo's Little League trophy, both kids helping Martha in the garden, captured here, in this house, back when Sunday dinners meant laughter and warmth. I closed the photo album, but kept Leo and Clara's picture tucked between the pages of my notebook, like a talisman. Tomorrow, I would plan gifts, small gestures that might open doors. Tonight I would count the hours until Thursday, and wonder if this time, things would be different. My finger traced the empty square for Thursday on the calendar, then picked up a pen to draw a small circle around it. 20 hours later, dirt clung stubbornly to my fingernails as I crouched among tomato plants in the backyard. The Tuesday afternoon sun warmed my shoulders through the worn flannel shirt Martha had once pressed against me before cancer stole her voice. The seedlings demanded attention, water, sun, careful pruning, tasks that grounded me when the rest of life felt chaotic. Looking good, Elias. Mrs. Hargrave called from her kitchen window across the street. I waved, straightened my creaking back, and checked the mailbox for the third time today, hoping for birthday gift ideas, perhaps a catalog for a businesswoman I barely knew. Nothing awaited me but bills and grocery flyers. The cordless phone rang inside the house. Heart pounding, I jogged to the back door, brushing soil from my palms on the dish towel. The caller ID displayed an unfamiliar number. "Hello, this is Elias." "Elias, this is Mabel." Her voice crisp, professional, the tone she reserved for her high-profile consulting clients. No warmth, no small talk. "I'm calling about my birthday on Thursday." I fumbled for my notebook, pen ready. "Yes, Seth mentioned you might." I'm inviting you to join us," she said, her voice brisk but precise. "It'll be at Lakeview Manor, just outside the city. Elite place." I heard papers shuffle. "Thursday evening, 7 o'clock sharp," she added. I wrote it down carefully, my handwriting suddenly shaky. That's wonderful, Mabel. Thank you for including me. Dress appropriately," she said, the line already fading under the sound of typing. "It's not some casual diner." I stared at what I had written. Lakeview Manor, elite place, 7 p.m. I hesitated, then pressed further. "Mabel, I have to ask. Seth said it would be a simple dinner. This sounds quite fancy." "Plans changed," she said, clipped. "It'll be a grand celebration now. Bring a substantial gift." "Of course. Will Leo and Clara be there?" "They'll be there. Don't disappoint them by showing up underdressed." The dial tone buzzed in my ear. I sat back in the creaky desk chair Martha had bought at a garage sale 15 years ago, staring at the page where two worlds collided: yesterday's small dinner, closest people; today's grand celebration, 50 guests, elite restaurant. Seth's weary voice, Mabel's commanding tone. Outside, the neighbor's sprinkler arcs gleamed in the sunlight, but I couldn't focus on the green lawn. My mind churned over my savings, my worn shirt hanging in the closet, whether any of it would be enough for Lakeview Manor. The flower shop on Ashland Avenue might have something appropriate, roses, maybe, or something more unique to stand out, something Mabel couldn't ignore. Those elaborate floral arrangements businesswomen adored for their offices. I circled Thursday's date again, adding 7 p.m. Lakeview Manor in bold block letters, as if writing it twice might make it more real. Then I picked up the phone to call the restaurant, listening to the hostess's polished, sophisticated voice as she outlined valet parking, jacket requirements, and etiquette for the private dining rooms. I hung up, holding the notebook with both hands, staring at the address I had carefully scribbled. Evening shadows began to stretch across the living room, soft and long, but my gaze never left the elegant, expensive address, Lakeview Manor. I reached for the photo album on the coffee table, letting it fall open to Clara's school Christmas performance from 2 years ago. Her angel costume had slid crookedly off one shoulder, her tiny wings askew, yet her smile could have lit the entire auditorium. I remembered buying a new shirt for that day, practicing the compliments I would whisper about her singing, hoping to make her feel seen. Then I remembered Mabel's call that December afternoon. "Sorry, Elias, venue change. The family section is completely full now. You understand?" I had driven there anyway, parked across the street from Lincoln Elementary, and watched through those tall windows as my granddaughter sang Silent Night to a room full of parents and grandparents. Everyone but me. Page after page of the album held similar memories. Simon's baseball game last spring. I'd received a call. Weather looks bad, Elias. Rain would ruin it for everyone. Yet Seth's Facebook photos showed sunny skies, Simon sliding triumphantly into home plate, while grandparents cheered from the bleachers. The kitchen timer chimed, pulling me back to the present. My soup was ready, canned chicken noodle, reheated, unremarkable, but warm. I shuffled to the stove, stirred it absent-mindedly, while the radio played soft hits from the 1970s. Martha used to hum along while cooking real dinners, roasts and casseroles, that filled the house with warmth and laughter. Back in my chair, I balanced the bowl on my knee and turned another page of the album. Last Christmas morning stared back at me, the one that hurt the most. I had wrapped presents weeks in advance, a remote control helicopter for Simon, art supplies for Clara, all decorated with professional wrapping paper, carefully tied bows, name tags in my best handwriting. The children woke up with fevers. You know how the flu spreads, Elias, maybe next week when they're feeling better. Those presents had sat in my bedroom closet ever since. The helicopter's batteries had probably corroded by now, and Clara's watercolors, carefully arranged in neat tubes, might have dried into unusable blocks. The weight of absence pressed down on me again. Every memory was a quiet accusation, a reminder that time and circumstance had kept me from the moments I had cherished most. And now Thursday loomed, a grand celebration, an elite restaurant, a place where I would have to navigate unfamiliar luxury to reclaim a place with the family I had loved all along, likely dried out. 3 days later, Seth posted photos from Vail. Both kids were healthy, laughing, building snowmen in designer ski clothes I couldn't have afforded in 5 years of Social Security checks. We lived in the same city, just 23 minutes apart, yet I had seen them at most twice a year, always on Mabel's terms, always when convenient for her schedule. The pattern was undeniable. If I stopped making excuses, every invitation withdrawn, every plan suddenly canceled, every maybe next time that never arrived. Maybe she simply didn't want an old man disrupting her carefully curated life. I closed the album, but kept Clara's school photo tucked inside my notebook. Tomorrow, I would shop for something fitting, substantial enough to belong in Lakeview Manor's elegant atmosphere. Perhaps jewelry stores, or perfume counters at the mall, expensive bottles nestled in ornate boxes. The radio crooned "The Way You Look Tonight," and for a moment, I imagined Martha humming along from the kitchen, guiding me through these murky social waters. This time will be different, I whispered to her empty chair. She invited me personally. That has to mean something. The album slid back onto the coffee table, with a soft thud. Outside, streetlights flickered on, and Mrs. Hargrave's television glowed behind her curtains. Normal families, enjoying normal evenings, grandparents included, no questions asked. I carried my empty soup bowl to the kitchen, rinsed it carefully, and placed it in the drying rack. Then I climbed the stairs to my bedroom, where my one good shirt hung neatly in the closet, next to work clothes I no longer needed. Tomorrow, I'd buy flowers. Thursday, I'd dress appropriately, and try not to disappoint the grandchildren, who barely remembered my name. Thursday morning arrived, with pale sunlight spilling through the curtains. Awake since 5:30, I had checked the weather on my old radio. Clear skies, mild temperatures, perfect for the drive to Lakeview Manor. After a simple breakfast of toast and coffee, I reviewed my handwritten notes from the previous day: scarves, jewelry, perfume. Martha always said, scarves made women feel elegant, and I vaguely recalled Mabel wearing blue at last year's Easter dinner. Woodfield Mall opened at 10 o'clock, but I arrived early, circling the massive lot twice before finding a spot near the entrance. Families streamed past me, mothers pushing strollers, teenagers laughing in groups, elderly couples walking arm in arm. Inside, the chaos of the mall hit me immediately. Conversations echoed against high ceilings, children cried, cash registers beeped endlessly, and bright displays promised happiness through purchase. I wandered through Macy's first, examining handbags that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. The saleswoman watched me suspiciously as I fingered price tags, her perfectly painted nails tapping the glass counter. "Can I help you find something?" Her smile felt rehearsed. Looking for a birthday gift for my daughter-in-law. Price range? I hesitated, mentally weighing my pension against the requirements of Lakeview Manor. Something nice, but not extravagant. She led me toward cheaper accessories, her enthusiasm visibly dimming. 30 minutes I spent exploring wallets and costume jewelry, but nothing felt right for someone accustomed to places like Lakeview Manor. The boutique on the second floor offered a glimmer of hope, soft lighting, classical music, silk scarves displayed like art. A younger woman approached, her eyes warm and genuine. "This silk scarf is very elegant, sir," she said, holding a soft blue piece that flowed between her fingers like water. "It would suit any lady beautifully." The price tag made me wince, but I thought of Clara's angel costume, Leo's baseball trophy, missed Christmas mornings, and empty Easter dinners. "I hope she'll like it. It's for my daughter-in-law's birthday," I said. "Would you wrap it nicely?" "Yes, of course," she replied, folding tissue paper with practiced precision, tying ribbon into perfect bows. The finished package looked professional, elegant, far beyond my amateur attempts at holiday wrapping that often went unnoticed. Back home, I laid my navy suit on the bed, inspecting it for stains or loose threads. The pants were slightly short, the jacket loose around the shoulders, but it was clean and pressed. My shoes gleamed after 15 minutes of careful polishing. In the bathroom mirror, I rehearsed my words for the grandchildren. "Hi Leo, how's school going? Clara, you've grown so much." The phrases felt awkward, rusty, unused in conversation with anyone under 30. The gift sat on the kitchen table, wrapped in silver paper with a blue bow. Elegant enough for Lakeview Manor, expensive enough to show I cared, appropriate enough to avoid embarrassment. At 5:45, I grabbed my keys and wallet, double-checked the restaurant address, and headed to the garage. Tonight I would see my grandchildren again. Tonight everything would be different. The garage door rumbled open as I backed my old Buick into the fading daylight. Mabel's gift rested on the passenger seat, silver wrapping catching the last rays of sunlight. 6 o'clock exactly. Perfect timing for a 7 o'clock reservation. I-90 stretched ahead like a ribbon through suburban neighborhoods, past strip malls and housing developments, toward the open countryside. The radio played Martha's favorite oldies station. I hummed along to the songs of our early marriage. Moon River, our wedding dance. At a red light I checked the printed directions once more. Lakeview Manor, 23 miles outside the city, overlooking Lake Michigan's southern shore. Elite dining, elegant atmosphere, substantial gift required. The suburbs gave way to farmland as traffic thinned. Rolling fields stretched toward the horizon, broken occasionally by farmhouses with kitchen lights glowing, families gathering for dinner, grandparents welcome at every table. At 6:15, my dashboard clock ticking, I spotted a disabled car ahead. A woman stood beside the open hood, her posture rigid with frustration, dark hair tulles, her clothing simple but dignified. My first instinct was to drive past. I was already late, wearing my best suit, carrying Mabel's gift. But 40 years of fixing engines had trained me to recognize despair, and my conscience would not allow me to abandon her. I pulled up behind her, hazard lights blinking, and approached with the careful pace of someone offering help without judgment. "Ma'am, do you need assistance?" I asked. Relief washed over her face. "Oh, thank goodness. I don't know what's wrong. It just stopped running." Her voice carried authority and education, despite the grease stain on her blouse. A late-model sedan, well-maintained except for whatever had stranded her here. "Let's take a look under the hood," I said, lifting the hood carefully. The engine told its story immediately. Corroded battery terminals, zero voltage, alternator belt intact but powerless. Classic failure, something I had repaired countless times in my workshop. "Looks like your battery's dead. Probably been weakening for weeks," I explained. "Can you fix it?" she asked. "I have jumper cables." The jumper cables were in my trunk. "This shouldn't take long," I said, more to myself than to her. She watched me work with curious, intelligent eyes, asking questions that revealed genuine interest in the mechanics rather than the helpless female stereotype some men expected. "You're very kind to stop," she said softly. "Most people just drive by." I connected the cables with practiced precision, red to positive, black to negative, years of muscle memory guiding my hands. My wife used to say helping strangers was just good sense. You never know when you might need help yourself. The engine turned over smoothly on the second try. I let it idle while checking voltage levels, ensuring the alternator would recharge properly. Professional pride demanded thorough work, even for roadside repairs. There you go. Should work fine now. How much do I owe you? She asked. The question caught me off guard. Payment had never occurred to me. This was simply what decent people did for one another. Nothing at all, ma'am. Just be careful on these highways, I said, already packing the cables. Glancing at the dashboard clock, 6:30. Definitely running late for Lakeview Manor. My grandchildren would be wondering where Grandpa was. Where are you headed this evening? She asked, curiosity lacing her tone. To my daughter-in-law's birthday party, I said. Something flickered across her expression. Amusement? Recognition? I couldn't tell. Well, I hope you have a wonderful time. Maybe we'll see each other again. Maybe, I said, nodding slightly. Drive safely now. Back in my Buick, I watched her pull away through the rearview mirror, tail lights fading around a curve. A nice woman, well-spoken, gracious despite her predicament. The kind of person Martha would have liked. By 7:05 I reached the restaurant parking lot. Late, but not disastrously so. Her engine purred like new machinery as I wound the jumper cables into neat coils, my thoughts shifting back to the evening ahead. Inside Lakeview Manor, the grand celebration awaited. Substantial gifts, elegant attire, my chance, however fleeting, to reclaim a place beside my grandchildren. I stepped out of the Buick, straightened my jacket, and took a deep breath. The night stretched ahead, filled with opportunity, tension, and the delicate balance between apology, presence, and subtle assertion. Every step toward the entrance was a step into a world where I had been excluded for too long, a world I was determined to navigate with quiet dignity. 40 years of automotive repair had taught me to appreciate the sound of smooth combustion, and this car would run perfectly now that proper voltage flowed through its electrical system. Test your lights, radio, air conditioning, I suggested, wiping grease from my hands with the shop rag I always kept in the trunk. Make sure everything's working properly. She followed my instructions methodically, checking each system with the care of someone who understood the importance of details. Interior lights, headlights, turn signals, windshield wipers. Everything functioned correctly. Perfect. You've saved my evening, she said, stepping out of the car with obvious relief. Now, what do I owe you for the repair? She asked. Again, her tone gentle but insistent. Ma'am, I told you. Nothing at all. This is just what neighbors do for each other, I replied. But you're not my neighbor, she said. You're a stranger who stopped to help when dozens of other cars drove past. I shook my head firmly while closing the hood. Martha always said kindness wasn't a business transaction. You'd do the same for someone else, I'm sure. A knowing smile played across her lips. Where did you say you were going tonight? My daughter-in-law's birthday celebration, Lakeview Manor Restaurant. I admitted, glancing at my watch, 6:45. I really should be heading there soon. The smile widened, though I couldn't understand why. Lakeview Manor. That's quite an elegant establishment. Yes, it's supposed to be very fancy. Elite dining, my daughter-in-law called it. I straightened my tie self-consciously. I hope my suit's appropriate for their standards. I'm sure you'll fit in perfectly, she said, pausing with her hand on the door handle. You know, it's interesting how life brings people together at exactly the right moment. How do you mean? I asked. Oh, just that sometimes strangers meet for reasons that only become clear later. Her eyes held an amused sparkle. Maybe we'll see each other again sooner than you think. I chuckled politely. Maybe so, but I doubt it. Chicago's a big city. Smaller than you might imagine, she said, sliding into her driver's seat and rolling down the window. Thank you again for your kindness. Have a wonderful evening with your family. Drive carefully now and get that battery checked at a service station soon. She waved, and I watched her taillights disappear around the bend before climbing behind my steering wheel. A nice encounter, the kind that restored faith in human decency. Martha would have approved. 6:55 by the dashboard clock. Definitely late now, but only by a few minutes. I pressed the accelerator harder, eager to reach Lakeview Manor before my absence became noticeable. The woman's parting words echoed in my mind. Sometimes strangers meet for reasons that only become clear later. Every mile brought anticipation, a mixture of excitement and anxiety, as the city lights gave way to the darkened highways stretching toward the lake. The restaurant's towering silhouette loomed ahead, marble columns glinting faintly under the soft glow of evening lamps. Tonight was more than a birthday dinner, it was a test, a chance to reclaim moments lost, and perhaps, if luck permitted, to witness something extraordinary unfold. Her words echoed in my mind as I drove through the darkness. Maybe we'll see each other again sooner than you think. Odd thing to say to a complete stranger, but some people were naturally optimistic about coincidences. My thoughts shifted back to the evening ahead. Simon and Grace, waiting at an elegant restaurant, probably dressed in their Sunday best. Seth fidgeting with awkward conversation, Mabel orchestrating every detail of her perfect celebration. Me, arriving with an appropriate gift and genuine enthusiasm, determined to be the grandfather they deserved. The GPS announced my destination in half a mile. Lakeview Manor's lights appeared through the trees, warm and welcoming against the dark expanse of the lake beyond. Valet parking, just as the hostess had mentioned over the phone. I pulled up to the entrance, gifts secure in my hands, ready to give Simon and Grace a birthday celebration their grandmother would have wanted them to remember. The entrance doors gleamed like polished mirrors under crystal chandeliers. I checked my appearance one last time in the car's side mirror, smoothed my navy jacket, and gripped Mabel's gift with confidence drawn from Martha's old advice. Walk in like you belong there. Valet attendants in crisp uniforms directed luxury vehicles, Mercedes, BMWs, Lexus models costing more than my annual pension. My weathered Buick looked humble among them, but the young attendant offered the same professional courtesy he'd shown the Porsche ahead of me. Inside, live piano music drifted through air scented with expensive flowers. White tablecloths, silver cutlery, crystal wine glasses, everything elegant, refined, perfect. Exactly the elite dining Mabel had promised. Then I saw the crowd, 50, maybe 60 people mingled throughout the spacious dining hall. Business suits, cocktail dresses, champagne flutes in hand, animated conversations about quarterly projections and market strategies. This wasn't Seth's small dinner with closest people, this was a networking gala disguised as a family birthday. Mabel stood near the bar, stunning in a black designer dress, gesturing expressively while three sharply dressed men hung on her every word. An environmental consulting success story, holding court among potential clients and business partners. I approached slowly, the gift box feeling suddenly inadequate in my hands. Sorry I'm late, I said, interrupting her conversation, had to help someone on the highway with car trouble. Her expression froze, the businessmen glanced at me, polite confusion in their eyes, assessing my modest suit, my weathered appearance, my obvious lower social status. Mabel, I said, offering the wrapped gift with genuine warmth. Happy birthday. I hope you like it. She accepted the package as if it might contaminate her manicured fingers, setting it down quickly on a nearby side table without acknowledgement. The businessmen exchanged subtle glances, reading the social cues I was only beginning to understand. Thank you, she said, dismissively, already turning back to her conversation partners. Gentlemen, as I was saying about sustainable energy initiatives, Mabel, where should I sit? I asked, trying to mask my rising frustration with calm. I'd love to see Simon and Grace. Another pause, calculations behind her eyes, damage control versus family obligation. Oh dear Elias, what a shame, she said finally. All seats at the main table are completely reserved. She gestured toward a small corner, where the restaurant staff ate during a break, a card table, mismatched chairs, no tablecloth, no place settings. You'll have to sit over there with the service team. I followed her pointing finger, my dignity intact despite the public humiliation. The businessmen looked away, embarrassed. Other guests began noticing, their conversations dimming as the awkward scene unfolded. I looked across the room toward Simon and Grace, dressed in their best clothes, too far away to approach, too young to understand why Grandpa stood alone. Understanding hit like cold water. This had been planned, calculated. The invitation, the elite venue, the strategic seating, all designed to put me in my place. I nodded slowly, maintaining composure. Seth stood at the bar, expensive whiskey in hand, designer suit polished, confident. Everything I had wanted for my son, success, stability, respect, displayed before me. He saw me approaching, shoulders tense, guilt written across his face like a flashing headline. "Son," I said quietly, my voice level but firm, "maybe there's room at your table, just for tonight." He avoided my eyes, staring instead at the ice floating in amber liquid. "Dad, listen. We booked all the reservations before deciding to invite you. Mabel had the seating chart finalized weeks ago. I'm sitting with the kitchen staff, Seth, at a card table in the corner," I said softly, each word carrying weight. "It's your wife's birthday, and she's treating me like hired help." Seth's face flushed red, but not with anger, with discomfort, and the sudden realization that his choices had consequences. Embarrassment, shame, the uncomfortable awareness of participating in something fundamentally wrong. "Maybe I could ask Mabel to rearrange the seating." "Would you? Would you actually ask your spouse to treat your father with basic dignity?" Silence stretched between Seth and me. Piano music floated elegantly through the air. Glasses clinked at nearby tables. Conversations flowed around us like water skimming stones. "She's worked really hard on this party, Dad. All her business contacts are here. She's stressed about making good impressions." 2 words that carried 42 years of disappointment. 2 words that said everything about our relationship, his priorities, his choice between family and social climbing. Seth's relief was visible. He'd expected arguments, demands, perhaps emotional manipulation. Instead, I gave him exactly what he wanted, permission to abandon his father without consequences. "It's just for tonight," he said weakly. "Maybe next time we can." "Next time," I interrupted softly, turning away from the bar. "Sure, son. Next time." Behind me, Seth called something about understanding, about difficult situations, about hoping I'd enjoy the dinner anyway. Words meant to soothe his conscience, not address the fundamental problem. I walked slowly toward the corner table, past elegantly dressed guests, discussing stock portfolios and vacation homes, past my daughter-in-law holding court among her potential business partners, past the main table where Simon and Grace sat in their Sunday best, their little faces etched with confusion and sadness, as they watched their grandfather's quiet humiliation. The staff table felt like exile. Waiters nodded sympathetically as I sat down, understanding working-class solidarity in ways my own family had long forgotten. They offered me coffee, asked if I needed anything, treated me with more courtesy than the people who shared my blood. From this corner, I could observe the entire celebration. Count the guests, 57 by my calculation. Watch Mabel network with environmental industry leaders, see Seth hover near the bar, avoiding eye contact across the room. Most painfully, I could see my grandchildren steal glances in my direction, held back by social protocol from approaching their grandfather sitting alone with restaurant employees on break. The staff table became an observation post overlooking enemy territory. From this vantage, I could survey Mabel's entire social battlefield. 57 guests, designer clothing, everyone part of her environmental consulting network. And me, invisible, a ghost of family amidst the elite. "Sorry you ended up here, sir," said a young waiter, settling across from me with a sandwich and a cup of coffee. "Doesn't seem right, family treating family like this." "Not your fault, son." He shook his head, glancing toward the main celebration. "Been working these fancy parties for 3 years. Never seen anything like this before." Neither had I. But the pattern was becoming clear. Systematic exclusion disguised as social necessity. Seth's small family gathering had transformed into Mabel's professional networking event with military precision. I began counting backward through memories. Christmas morning cancellations, school play venue changes, baseball game weather concerns, Easter dinner flu symptoms. Every excuse, every sudden change, meticulously designed to separate me from Simon and Grace while maintaining plausible deniability. The mathematics were simple. 57 business guests rated for invitations, their grandfather relegated to a corner with the service staff. My phone buzzed. A text message, probably Seth, sending electronic apologies to ease his conscience. But the number was unfamiliar. "Is everything all right at the restaurant? I hope your evening improved after our highway encounter." The woman from the roadside. Somehow she'd gotten my number, likely when I had given it to the insurance company during the repair. A kind gesture from a stranger, who had shown more concern for my well-being than my own family ever had. I typed back carefully. Interesting. Her response would change everything. Subtle, knowing, almost conspiratorial. She didn't hurry to me, didn't make a show of recognition. Instead, she surveyed the room for a moment longer, letting the tension stretch, letting the people around her feel the magnetic gravity of her presence before closing the distance. When she finally approached, her heels clicking softly against the polished floor, I could see the intelligence in her eyes, sharp, alert, assessing every person in the room. She knelt slightly, close enough for me to see the fine lines around her mouth that hinted at laughter, experience, and an unshakable confidence. "Reuben," she said quietly, voice calm but rich with authority. "I believe you helped me earlier this evening." "Yes, ma'am," I managed, surprised by the casual ease she spoke with. "Just someone on the road in need." Her smile widened, not condescending, but approving. Exactly the kind of kindness the world needs. Most would have passed by. I nodded, unsure what to say next, caught between humility and the strange thrill of recognition from a stranger who clearly wasn't ordinary. She leaned closer, her presence somehow insulating me from the murmurs and glances of the entire dining room. "You didn't know it," she continued, her voice almost a whisper, yet carrying through the hum of the restaurant. "But this evening could have gone very differently. Thanks to you, it might go exactly as it should." I blinked, trying to comprehend. "I'm not sure I understand, ma'am." She chuckled softly, that confident magnetic laugh that seemed to bend the room's attention. "You will. Soon. For now just sit, watch, observe. Some lessons are best learned quietly." I glanced toward Simon and Grace at the main table. Their little faces, still curious, still hesitant, seemed to brighten at her presence too, though neither understood why. And somewhere deep inside, I realized the evening had just begun, that the quiet, meticulous plan that had humiliated me was about to be overturned, in a way I hadn't anticipated, by a woman who owed me nothing, yet had everything to give. The waiter poured another cup of coffee, glancing between me and Miss Howard, with an almost imperceptible nod. "Looks like things are about to get interesting," he murmured. "Yes," I whispered back, gripping the edge of the table. "I think they are." And from the corner of the room, under the soft glow of chandeliers, the dynamics of family, power and respect began to shift imperceptibly, ready to topple Mabel's carefully curated kingdom, one truth at a time. Genuine for the first time since entering, Miss Howard's eyes found me. "I told you we might see each other again," she said, her words carrying across the room, defying Mabel's attempts to monopolize her attention. Guests followed her line of sight, suddenly noticing the old man sitting with restaurant workers, trying to understand why this powerful woman acknowledged someone at the service table. Mabel's confusion was obvious. Her eyes darted between Miss Howard and me, trying to calculate a connection that didn't exist in her social mathematics. "I believe we have business to discuss," Miss Howard said to Mabel, but her feet were already moving toward me. The crowd parted like water, creating a clear path. Whoever this woman was, she commanded respect from people who weren't easily impressed. Mabel trailed behind, powerless. Her carefully planned networking event, her strategic seating arrangements, her calculated social hierarchy, all disrupted by this arrival. Miss Howard reached my table with purposeful steps, ignoring distinctions between staff and main tables. "Mind if I sit?" she asked, gesturing to the empty chair beside me. The young waiter scrambled to offer his seat. "Please ma'am, take mine." She settled gracefully, designer dress perfectly at ease beside a simple metal chair. Mabel arrived, breathless, her networking smile stretched tight. "Miss Howard, surely you'd prefer the main table. I can arrange." "Actually, I'm curious about the seating arrangements," Miss Howard said gently, yet firmly. "Why is Mr. Gray sitting with the restaurant staff?" Her question hung in the air like a challenge wrapped in silk. Nearby guests leaned in, sensing drama more compelling than profit discussions. "He's my father-in-law," I said quietly. "It's my daughter-in-law's 40th birthday, and I'm celebrating at the staff table." Miss Howard's gaze softened with genuine interest. "Tell me about your grandchildren. I assume they're here tonight." I nodded toward Simon and Grace, their little faces full of curiosity, unable to cross the invisible social barrier. Christmas, Easter, school plays, canceled visits, all patterns crystallized in her assessment. She watched Mabel's face pale, as she processed the repeated calculated exclusion of a kind, devoted grandfather. Seth approached, drink in hand, clearly sent to manage the situation. "Dad, everything okay here?" he asked. "Your father was just explaining family dynamics," Miss Howard interjected. "Interesting perspective on hospitality and respect for elders." Seth's face flushed red, realizing his family's treatment of me was being evaluated by someone whose opinion could make or break careers. Mabel suggested a private discussion, but Miss Howard stood tall, commanding the room. She walked to the center of the dining hall. Conversations hushed, every guest focused as she raised her champagne glass. "Good evening, everyone. Allow me to properly introduce myself. My name is Esther Howard. I'm the founder and CEO of Howard Green Energy Corporation." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "I'm also the principal director of the Howard Foundation, managing charitable assets exceeding $2 billion annually. We focus on supporting organizations and individuals who demonstrate exceptional character and human dignity." Her gaze found me again. "This evening, I met Mr. Reuben Gray on the highway outside Chicago. His car had broken down, and he stopped to help a stranger, refusing any payment for his assistance. Imagine my surprise when I discovered that the same man, who showed such kindness, was seated at a corner table with restaurant staff, separated from his grandchildren at a family celebration." Mabel swayed slightly, gripping a chair for support. "In my business dealings, I've learned that character matters more than profit margins. How people treat others when no one important is watching reveals their true nature. Unfortunately, tonight demonstrates a fundamental lack of values my foundation supports." The crowd gasped. Careers hung in the balance. Miss Howard continued, her voice warming. "I'm pleased to announce that Mr. Reuben Gray has accepted my invitation to join the Howard Foundation's board of directors. His demonstrated character and natural dignity make him exactly the kind of person we need to guide our charitable initiatives." The restaurant erupted in murmurs. Seth dropped his whiskey glass, the sound of shattering crystal punctuating the moment. My granddaughter's confused smile, my grandson's wide eyes, and my son's cycling expressions of shame and recognition, all witnessed the reversal. Esther Howard raised her glass once more. "To Mr. Gray, proof that kindness to strangers creates the most unexpected opportunities, and that dignity always finds its proper reward." Justice had been served. Elegant, complete and utterly satisfying.